In this activity, you will compare three different responses to colonialism. First, consider the Arabi Revolt, which is Islamic in nature, but ultimately restorationist in support of the restoration of the Ottoman Empire in Egypt. Second, you might have a look at your reading on Gandhian ethics from the Doctrine of the Sword, and note that Gandhian ethics draws upon this philosophy of satyagraha, which means speaking forcefully in Sanskrit, often translated or glossed in English as speaking truth to power, but that's not quite the same. Satyagraha is just speaking forcefully. This might be in collaboration with or in discussion with Nehru's approach to democratic socialism, founding the sort of democratic republic and socialist state in the Republic of India. This could be contrasted again with Ho Chi Minh's Confucian-informed Marxist revolutionary nationalism, which you find in the article by Bui Nop Sun. Draw a distinction here. When I say Marxist nationalism, I'm not talking about Marxist interpretations of economics like Das Kapital, like I mentioned previously, contrasting this with the Communist Manifesto, which is a different aspect of Marxism. Right, so those are two different distincts, like the Marxist critique of capital, sort of intellectual project, and then Communist Manifesto and Marxist revolutionary nationalism, sort of different anti-colonial strain of Marxist thought. It relates to the broader question that we've been examining of who leads in a social context. If there's a riot and colonial police call something a riot, is there a leader to a riot? Who leads a riot? This differs from the circumstance of a rebellion when colonial governments critique rebellions or repress rebellions. Who's leading a rebellion? You could think about these different cases. Egyptian resistance to Bonaparte, for example, the Great Rebellion, the Arabi Revolt. Who are leading these rebellions? Now, this would be the case in every context. Ho Chi Minh's led revolts against France, for example, but in all of these, you have the question of, is this a proto-nationalist revolt? What are the social contexts? And were there riots that took place initially, protests that took place initially, and how did those grow over time? Especially in the case of Ho Chi Minh, but also in the case of Gandhi, you have the question of who is against colonialism and imperialism. How are these individuals aligned with Gandhi, aligned with Ho Chi Minh, going to interpret colonialism, going to critique colonialism? How are they going to critique imperialism? And that is part of the discussion as well. For example, we mentioned this very broad sentiment that was behind the League Against Imperialism conference, with all sorts of individuals from across the world, from political spectrums, right to left, joining this conference, even though the conference is organized predominantly by communists initially. The support behind the conference is not just this pan-leftist sentiment, which includes democratic socialists like the aforementioned Einstein, but also right-wing nationalists, those aligned with Sun Yat-sen and so forth. So this sort of very broad sentiment that is in support of nationalism and against imperialism. So again, for your post, go ahead and contrast these three different approaches, the Arabi revolts, the Gandhian ethics, and Nehru's democratic socialism, and the third, Ho Chi Minh's Confucian-informed Marxist revolutionary nationalism. Go ahead and draw upon your readings of the Doctrine of the Sword and the Bui Nop Sun piece, and then make a quick post. Just how are they similar? How are they different? And you can keep the discussion very simple. Just make a quick point, and then let's get this going.